imagine graduating from Ivy League and then catching up or ending up in addiction. Then you get to a point in your life where you end up in prison. But it doesn't end up there. You lose everything. How do you come back? How do you rebuild? This story is a sad story of the guest today, Ken Miller, on the King Obed podcast, who has been through this journey. He's here to share with us how he ended up in prison, became addicted, was found on the streets, a man who had gone through the Ivy League school in the United States of America. Welcome to the King Obed podcast, Ken Miller.
Well, thank you, King. I'm so appreciative to be on this show.
Great. How has it been? How has the journey been so far?
Oh, it's going great now compared to where it was. It's life is very, very good, and I am very, very grateful for where I'm at today. And I'm, again, very grateful for the opportunity to share with your audience.
Yeah. So what was growing up like for you?
Sure. So my mother was a white female. She was a teenage runaway in New York City in the United States. And my dad was a drug dealer and pimp. That's what he did in New York in 1962 when I was born. And my mother put me up for adoption at birth. So that's why I'm biracial. And I went through foster homes for 6 years. And then I was adopted by a couple named Irene and Sam Miller. And they brought me from the state of New York to the state of Alaska. So I grew up in Alaska as a biracial child.
Okay.
I was, I was very fortunate in a lot of ways to have grown up there. Yes, King?
Okay. So you ended up in one of the most prestigious schools in the U.S., where a cluster of schools where we term as Ivy League school. And in all of this, what was it like? How was the journey like going through this school and then ending up on the street, where I'm sure you did not even anticipate that you're going to end up on the street?
Right. So let's go back a little bit. So I'm 6 years old. We'll just bring it up to date. I'm 6 years old, and I'd gone through what we call foster care, which means I didn't have a mother or father. It was just, I was a part of what they would call the ward of the state. And I could not read. I could not write. I could not tell time. I could not even tie my shoes when I was adopted at age 6. I get adopted, and my mother teaches me to read that first summer. I'll never forget that. And I fell in love with reading, which is something I recommend to everyone. But I fell in love with reading. I was very curious. And by the time I was in second grade, I was reading at what we call the 5th grade level. So I was really called precocious. I was smart. I was a smarty kid. Then at age 17, it's time to choose a college. I chose to go to Dartmouth, but I was accepted to Harvard, which is probably the #1 school. But we in the United States call it the Ivy Leagues, and it's the top 7 schools in the country academically. So I go there, and I was what they call a National Merit Scholar. I go there as a National Merit Scholar, and I struggled. I struggled a bit going there because I was exposed to alcohol at age 17 and very quickly fell in love with alcohol and became an alcoholic within probably about a month and a half. And then I was exposed to drugs also. I get out of college, I graduate, get out of college, I go into what is called the corporate world. So same shirt, 1984, white shirt with a tie and a jacket. And I went out there and worked in the white collar world for a couple of years. Then I relapsed, and I spent the next 20 years on the streets as an addict, as a criminal, and as a alcoholic. And then I also went to prison 3 times. So I'd spent years behind bars as a convicted felon.
Wow. So this was the journey. And all of this, you had not seen your parents. They had gone missing. How was the feeling like? Was there no point where you felt like you needed to see your real parents?
Yes, that came later. My #1 thing while I was under the influence of drugs, or I was a part of that world. So from 1986 to 2007, 21 years, I was either homeless, I was in drug treatment, programs or I was in jail or prison. That's what I did for 21 years. Then I get out and I'm sober and clean, not doing any drugs, and I had to build my life back. And then, so I get out in 07, and then in 16, I did the DNA. We can, test the DNA. And I found my biological mother. And what a beautiful experience that was to meet her. And really, I need to do that to hear the rest of the story and also to give forgiveness, because I was very angry at her for a lot of years for giving me up.
This was how many years? After how many years were you able to reconnect with your parents?
It was after 55 years.
55 years.
Yes.
Wow.
55.
Wow.
Right.
55 good years.
Yeah.
I lost connection with your parents, but through DNA testing, you were able to reconnect.
Yes. And, the reconnection is done at different levels. You reconnect emotionally, you reconnect physically, you reconnect intellectually because you're talking to that person. Yes. And then you can also say there's a spiritual reconnection. This is my mother. This is the woman that gave birth to me. And she didn't abort me. And she had good reason to quote unquote abort me because she was pregnant by a married black man. And in 1962, they didn't play that. Where my dad was from, which is the deep South, Georgia, he could have been killed or lynched for impregnating a white female. I mean, that's the truth. But they're in New York, and she kept me. Well, she gave birth to me, but, she gave me up the day I was born. And she explained why. And I understood that. Once I got the rest of the story, it made it so much easier. And I forgave her. And it was beautiful. And so but she only lived another 2 years after that. But in those 2 years, we built a relationship. And, to this day, I'm the executor of her estate. And I take care of my niece and nephew. They have some money, considerable amount of money, that I take care of for them until they're 25. She allowed me to do that, which is beautiful.
Yeah. How many years did you spend on the streets?
21.
21 years.
Yep.
In your 21 years, you were into drug addiction. You spent 21 years into drug addiction. Why do you think that there is so much of cases of drug addiction in the US? Is there a particular reason? Or drug abuse?
There's a lot of reasons. One, it's available. There's the drug. In 1542, they didn't have crack cocaine. Okay? They didn't have crack cocaine in 1920. So, first of all, there's access. America's rich. So therefore, we can afford the drugs. Because I could go out there and commit crimes and get the money. I did it every day. I did pretty much something to get the money to buy the drugs. And a lot of times there isn't a lot of pain to be a drug addict, especially in the United States. I mean, you go to some places, you go to where I live, Seattle or Portland or Los Angeles, they'll give you a tent, they'll give you food, they'll give you medical coupons, they'll give you food stamps, and you can just be an addict on the streets and live in your little tent. It's in a lot of ways, that's sad, because it's difficult to get the drug treatment because for many of us, it takes treatment. I went to 14 treatment centers, 14. And until the last one, I've been now coming up on 21 years, clean and sober. Same amount of time I spent on the streets, I am coming up on clean and sober.
Wow. In the 21 years, can you recall the number of times you were arrested?
Oh, yeah.
And what actually happened?
Oh, yeah, of course I can. It's listed. You just go, there's a thing called Court View, and they'll have all my arrests. I remember I got the report, so there's different levels of this paperwork, and I remember I got my paperwork from the FBI, the federal, and they got everything. And there were literally arrests I didn't even remember. I didn't even remember them because I'd probably been arrested 20 times. But so there's two different levels of crime in America. You have misdemeanor, which means anything under a year, and anything over a year, if convicted, is a felony. So I used to tell people I don't count misdemeanors. For me, a misdemeanor was a chance to lay it down, get some rest, get my health back, and then go back out there and do the same thing again. 30 days, 60 days, 6 months. That's nothing when you're on the streets. But a felony is years. So my first felony was burglary. My second felony was possession of a controlled substance, possession of drugs. And my third was sales of drugs. And I was sentenced to, I was sentenced first time, 3 years. The second time I was sentenced, no, the first time I was sentenced to 5 years, 3 years, 6 years. But I ended up doing about 5 years because you have parole and things of that nature, probation. So I ended up doing about 5 years behind bars for felonies. I don't count the misdemeanors. There's probably another year or two with the misdemeanors.
So you spent 5 years in prison.
Mm-hmm.
How was the prison journey like?
Prison is interesting because prisons are the same, but they're different. And what do you mean by that? So you have different levels of prison. So prison in Ghana is different than prison, than a work camp in the state of California. Okay? Or a misdemeanor camp. Okay? I was not misdemeanor, a minimum. So the 3 levels in most states and prisons, there's only 2 types of prisons, state prison and federal prison. I only did state crimes. So if you're in a state prison, most states, they can do their own rules. In the states I was in, you have 3 levels of custody: minimum, medium, max. Okay? Sometimes they call super max, but let's not worry about that. Anyway, I was always medium because I actually had an escape on my record. It's a whole nother story, but I have an escape on my record. So I can never go minimum, which is like camp, or it's a lot easier. So I'm in a medium custody. And again, my prison would be different than going to prison in Venezuela or prison in Ghana or prison. I've seen shows about prison in South Africa. It's tough. Prison is obviously all men. And I could talk about this for hours. It depends on how you want to do your time, because that's what you're doing is time. You are sentenced in the United States, you're always sentenced to months. So you're not sentenced to years. You'll never get a sentence of 6 years and 3 months. No, they'll give you 6 years, which would be 72 months to another number. So I would get sentenced something like 16 to 72. That's a common one, a year, 4 months to 6 years. Okay. So if you don't do a good job in prison, you'll end up doing the whole 6 years. Okay. So you go into prison and it is a bunch of men. This is the thing about prison. I had some of the best experiences in prison, but I'll never want to go back. Never want to go back. I had some great sporting. I played basketball. I was the most valuable player of the league. I lifted weights, loved it. I played pinochle. I tell people to this day, there's a card game called pinochle, double-deck pinochle. That's the only thing I miss about prison. The only thing I miss about prison is double-deck pinochle. Played it almost every single day. And then you have friends in there. You have friends. Also, prison in the United States is very racial. So blacks hang out with blacks, Hispanics hang out with Hispanics, whites hang out with whites. And there's sometimes a little mixture depending on how you want to do your time and your classification. But it's men doing time. And you can avail yourself to the resources because there are resources in there so you don't have to come back. And the first 2 times I didn't. The third time I did. I went to counseling. I went to AA meetings. I went to school. I went to the library and read. I went to the gym and worked out. I went to church. But that was the third time. The first 2 times, all I wanted to do was be a better drug dealer. That's prison, among 100,000 other things.
Did it transform you?
The third time it did. First 2 times it didn't. The third time it did. So you have to understand how it works. Depending on the state, if I had done the felonies that I did in California, I'd be in there for life. When I went in Nevada, I was in the state of Nevada, and the judge promised me that if I came into his courtroom one more time, he was giving me the habitual criminal statute. That statute states that I will do 25 to life on my next conviction.
Yeah. So in terms of the times and the years you spent in prison, how did prison transform your life?
Prison transformed my life because it gave me an environment or an opportunity to change my life. It wasn't prison. Prison's just an environment. That's all it is. It's a restrictive environment, but there's restrictive environments when you're not in prison. There's some people that are in prison by their wife. They're in prison. Okay? There's some people that are in prison by their job. They're still in prison. They still have constraint. Yeah, you get that. You hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Sometimes I've had some days with my wife, I'd rather be in prison. Okay? So it's an environment. It's what do you do with that environment? I was in the exact same prison the second and third time. Exact same prison.
Okay.
And only like a couple years in between, but I did different things. And so to the listener, to the people on this, who are listening to this, think about this is just an environment. Your life is just an environment. And what are you going to do with it? Don't blame it on the wife or the employer or the court system or something external to you. And please don't blame God. Take responsibility for your growth, for your change. And that's what I did the third time. I just did it within the parameters of being in prison. If anything, I tell people this all the time. Me going to prison the third time was the best thing that ever happened.
Oh, really?
The best. Yes, really. Because I couldn't get sober on the streets. I couldn't stay sober on the streets. And also it gives you time. I didn't have to worry about rent. I didn't have to worry about food. I didn't have to worry about a gym membership.
Yeah.
I didn't have to worry about going to the library. The library was right there. Thousands of books. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I didn't have keys. I didn't worry about that. I didn't have to worry about having my driver's license on me. There was no driver's license. You see what I'm saying? It's an environment. And it also, you got a lot of time. So I could read. Do you know I read 160 books in 1 year? When I was
in prison.
In prison. What else are you going to do? Other than play pinochle, go to the gym, go to chow, walk the yard. I mean, let me put it this way. I wasn't taking trips to Hawaii. Okay? You feel me?
But in all of this, was there a connection between you and your family?
So I had a, adoptive mother. So when you go into the penitentiary, they give you they allow you to have what is called a call list. And the call list can only have 10 names on it. Now, you can take somebody off, put somebody else back on. But these are 10 people that will accept your phone calls.
Mm-hmm.
The most people I ever had on my call list was 2. Okay? That's how badly my relationships with people were. And at one point, my own mother said that she would not take calls from me. She needed a break from me. I cried like a baby. When she told me that on the phone, I was in what they call the rotunda in front of all these other grown men, and I cried. And I was hard. And nobody said a thing to me because they don't know who I'm talking to. My wife might have died. My child might have died. My girl might have said, I'm getting a divorce. But all it was my mother saying, Kenneth, don't call me. I need a break. I need a break. This incident happened that I think you did. And the crazy thing was, it wasn't me. It was my cousin who did it. But she thought it was me. And she had good reason to think it was me because I did a lot of stuff. But anyway, that hurt. To this day, I'll never forget that moment. So yeah, I did not have a lot of favor. Let me just say another thing. I was down 3 times. I did over 5 years in the penitentiary. I never had a visitor in 5 years.
5 years?
And yeah, 5 years. Most people, somebody visits them, let's say, weekly, monthly, twice a year.
Yeah.
I never, and my mom lived 30 miles away. Never. Well, that's all
was there a moment where you realized that at this point you needed to change?
Oh, yes. There was about 30 of those, 40 of those. I'll give you an example of what I mean by that.
Yeah.
I was in a motel room and I disrespected another man. And he came up to me, pulled out his knife, and put his knife to my rib cage. And all he had to do was push it in. And I couldn't. I'm on the bed. I can't like jump away quickly because you don't want to make sharp movements. And I'm talking to him. And if I remember correctly, his name was Sheik on the streets. His name was Sheik. And I think he was crying because he liked me. We'd known each other for years. We had been in prison together. But what I said to him was that disrespectful. And he had to deal with it. And I'm talking to him just like I'm talking to you. And I'm trying to talk him down. You don't have to do this. That was my bad. I was wrong. I know. I apologize. Whoop-de-whoop-de, but it could have been too late. So anyway, we get through that situation. And he leaves, because it's my room. He leaves, and I'm like, man, you need to do something different. This is like the third time people have pointed a gun at you or, had a knife at you. One time I was kidnapped, and I came this close to being killed. That's another time. I have a lot of those times that I questioned. I need to do something different. I got to do something about it. Remember, I went 14 times to try to get treatment. Every one of those, I was trying to do something a little different. I just couldn't stay sober. I could get sober.
From Ivy League school to the streets to drugs to prison, 5 years in prison. Now it's time to come out. When you came out of prison, how did you start the journey, the rebuilding process? When you had lost everything, how did you begin?
So I got out of prison, and actually the last time I only did 3 years. The other times I did a couple years. And I walked out with a box, and that box contained all the possessions I owned in the world. The world. A lot of it was papers, letters I'd received from my mom and stuff like that. And then a couple clothing items. That's it. But that's it. And I had $27 to my name. But I had a halfway house to go to. So I go to the halfway house. I make a couple good decisions. And I never forget this gentleman, because I'm looking for a sponsor in Narcotics Anonymous program to sponsor me, because now I'm out. And every time I've gotten out before, I screwed up. I went back to my drug addiction. Anyway, I sat down with him, and he said to me, are you ready to work the steps? I'm like, yeah, I'm ready. Let's do this. And he said, no relationships for a year. And all I heard was no sex for a year. And I'm a man. I've been locked up for 3 years. And I look good. I smell good. And I remember that one, because this is an important thing. This was a pivotal moment for me, because I know what I wanted. I know what was going to give me pleasure. And he said, let's chop that for a year, and let's just work on self outside the penitentiary. And I thought about it for a minute, and I said, okay, let's do this. And I was good. I didn't chase the girls. And so that was when I started that's when probably one of the big ones when I realized I'm willing to do what was needed. And again, I've been clean and sober since. There was a lot of setbacks. There were a lot of things I had to work on. Because again, all I did was remove a chemical that changes my perception of reality. But I still had ways that I dealt with the world that were not good, that were not based on God. That's for sure.
Wow. Interesting. So when your reputation is gone, how do you rebuild it? How do you regain it?
Depends on which reputation.
Because
I had a reputation on this.
Now,
You've
gone through this cycle. Coming out of prison,
okay.
In your mind, how did you anticipate the world was going to receive you?
Well, first I anticipated they were going to receive me like I was an ex-con, which they did. So many employers are not going to employ you. Many individuals are not going to get into a relationship with you. I'm talking about women, which is cool. Yeah. I mean, they're trying to protect themselves. Remember, I'm unusual. Most of us go back to prison. I went back the first 2 times. I'm very unusual to be a successful. I'm a millionaire today. I'm very successful. I own 5 businesses. I speak. I talk. I write books. Okay, great. I'm on podcasts.
Wow.
But you're talking about your reputation.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw this out, but let me just finish this. What reputation? I had a reputation on the streets. And people, when I got back out, I went back to the same streets.
Yeah.
People were like, oh, you're back. Good to see you, man. Let's do it. And I'm like, but I'm not that person anymore.
Yeah.
I'm Ken now. I'm not my street name, okay? And I'm not in that world. I'm not in your community anymore. Now, if you're in recovery and I see you in a meeting, come on, let's do it. I'll never forget this. I'm driving. I've been out of prison for, let's say, 6 months. I see a partner I knew from the streets, right? And he's just walking down the streets. And he gets in, he said, oh, man, it's great to see you. I haven't seen you for a while. I said, yeah, years. I said, yeah, I'm clean and sober. I did 3 years. I'm out. I'm off paper. I'm not doing parole anymore because I finished that. And, I'm clean and sober. And he's like, oh, that's cool. He said, yeah, I'm just going to go down here and sell this crack cocaine I got on me. I said, what? I pulled over. Get out of my car. Get out of my car. You're going to come in here. I'm clean and sober and come in with, I got him looking at 25 to life. But I had a reputation that he could associate with me. So I had to get rid of that reputation. Then I had to build, build the reputation I have today. I have a beautiful reputation. I'm well respected within my community.
Wow. So you've built resilience, and you've challenged yourself. You've come out, and now you've built businesses. Like you're saying, you can point your fingers to your chest and say that, yes, I am a billionaire now. You've reached that cap to the level of being attain the 500, the 4,500. How have you been able to sustain it? How did you do it? Because it's not easy to just follow to the ground and then rise through the ranks and get to that higher level again. How have you built those businesses for you to get to the level that you'll be recognized into the pool of the 4,500 category?
Okay. Well, what I do is I can grind. That means I have a habit that has discomfort built into it in pursuit of a goal. That's what grind means. I speak on grinding. So I can grind. I can work hard. I've been in this office since 5:30 this morning, a.m. my time. And I also, to the best of my ability, try to find out what's the best way to do something. The key thing is I offer something when I work with my clients or my businesses that helps them. So they pay me to help them. Really, the term I use, I get paid to solve for. Pretty much every business does that. If you buy a car, and it's a car manufacturer, it's to solve for transportation. You have to get from point A to point B. This is the vehicle we will use. So I solve for it, and I do a good job solving for problems that my clients have, whether it's property, whether it's offshore virtual assistants, whether it's coaching, whether it's writing grants for NGOs. I solve, and I do a very good job at it. And another key one, and this is a one for listeners, you've got to understand finances. I know a lot of people got great ideas and they can work hard, but they don't understand finance. Learn finance. Learn a profit and loss statement. Learn a cash balance. So I'm just a couple of little tidbits. I'm good at what I do, and I'm willing to work hard. I had to make up for a lot of years. And the key thing, King, is this: these are all legitimate. These are all legal.
From prison to Fortune 500, how did you convince people to trust you again?
Okay, let me correct something. I'm not Fortune 500. Fortune 500, there's 300,000 businesses in the United States. There's only 500 on the top. That's not me. Okay, I would not be a millionaire. I'd be probably a billionaire. Okay, yeah. So just want to make sure we get to that. So what was the question again?
So I was saying that from prison now you've come out to build businesses. How did you convince people to trust you again? Come again?
How? Because I do trustable things.
Okay.
So what is trust? All trust is a belief in a future perceived action. So when you asked me to be on your podcast, you had some trust that I would show up on time.
Yeah.
You believed in a future action, which is me showing up at this time. That's what trust is. So how do you build trust? So first of all, some people will come in with a default to trust. Unfortunately, as a black man, as a black ex-con, people do not default to trust when engaging with people of my community or my sort, okay? Because they see stuff on TV or they're prejudiced or they have a bias. Now, if I was a white Jewish man, they'd trust me. but I'm not. So I have to build that trust. How do you do that? I have a white collar shirt on. You don't see me in a t-shirt on this conversation. I don't have a lot of hair on my face. I carry myself. I articulate in a certain way. I'm not saying, yo, what's up, my dog? What's crack-a-lacking?
Yeah.
I don't do that in a corporate meeting. I can go there. I just didn't use any profanity, but that's close to what I would say on the streets, okay? But I don't talk streets. I rarely talk streets. The only time I talk streets is sometimes when I'm talking in meetings of recovery, because that's who I'm talking to and talking with. So I give them examples that I can be trusted. I do what they ask me to do, okay? On time, within budget.
Can failure make you more successful?
Excuse me?
Can failure make you more successful?
What's the word again? My apologies. Huh?
Can failure make you more successful?
Man, I'm still having trouble getting that one word. Can what?
So follow up to what you just said in terms of trust, and then how you've been able to help people and all that you are doing. I'm just asking that, can failure, when you fail, can it lead you to be more successful?
If I'm feeling well?
No, if you fail, you fail.
Can failure, my apologies, King, that's on me. It's not you. Can failure, yeah, of course, it can if you learn from it. There's people that fail the same way every single time because they don't learn from the failure. It's the same thing as resilience. Resilience is a setback. It's the comeback from the set. So you've had a failure. You've had a stubbed your toe, okay? You've had something that's held you back. You've fallen down. We can name it a failure. Can you come back from that? Can you use that to motivate you or to learn from? And they're different. One is to learn cognitively with intellectual thought, and the other is to acquire a feeling that pushes you through fear and any type of impediment. And you can use failure to do either of them. Okay? Learn intellectually and overcome the feelings of being inspired to do better the next time. The word I like to use, so the two words are success and failure. And how do we get to success? You know, I mentor guys all over the country, and the first thing every time we get on the conversation, I say to them, tell me about a win. I don't even have to tell them most of the time. They already know. To start off with a win. We talk about a success since the last time we spoke, because I want to get you in that mindset that you are a winner. And I'm going to repeat back or reflect back to you that you are a winner. And now let's talk about any type of setbacks or any type of concerns, challenges that you have. But you're a winner, bro. You just told me about one when we got on the call. And you're not going to start talking to me without giving me a win. And they don't. They know it. And unfortunately, I only have 2 more minutes.
Wow. How many businesses do you have?
5.
5 businesses.
But you know, but you can have 50 businesses. I'd rather you have one good business and do it well.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Have one and do it well. I have 5, but I'm telling you, 80 to 90% comes from one business. Other ones is my, I call it chump change, but my McDonald's money. Okay?
Yeah. How many books? How many books so far?
I have 1 that I've published, and I have 3 more coming out this year.
Okay. Wow.
And you got to get me back on.
Can you just walk us through what those are about? The ones you've written already, or the one which is out already, and then the ones yet to
right.
go.
And then I got to go. I wrote a book called Becoming Ken: A Black Man's Journey from the Ivy Leagues to Prison and Back Again. That's called Becoming Ken, Amazon, Audible. I have another book coming out in probably about 2 more months on respect and disrespect. That's the topic. The whole book is on that, which is powerful. Then I have a book on mentoring within communities of color, about mentoring. And then I have another book on fundraising, practical fundraising for NGOs. Could I teach on that? This is a huge
transformation, for going through these phases of life and then putting yourself together again and getting to this far. So thank you very much for your time on the Kinobet podcast. It's been a smooth journey, walking us through your life, how you got into prison, how you came back, and you'll be able to build businesses, mentoring people, writing books and all. So yes, I know that listeners will get a grab of it, and then they'll take some lessons from your life as you shared it on the Kinobet podcast. Yes, so viewers, listeners, until we meet again, yes, this is the story of Ken Miller.